Hey guys, it's Lumen, and today I will be presenting my Daytona MD2 team. Now, to be fair, it's not my team. I got it from someone who got it off of a JP YouTube video. Yeah, I'll link the JP YouTube video, but I used it, and this is what I used to clear the title challenge. This is what I used to kind of farm the gems a bit, and I just want to show it to you guys. Obviously, Daytona's the hot lead, right? And MD2 is the hot content, so it just felt like making a video on it, kind of capitalizing on the hype, I guess. So yeah, I'll go over the team, subs, assists, how the team functions, challenges, things like that. And then I think what I want to talk about is title challenges in general. And what I mean by that is this title challenge was really difficult, right? But when you compare it to other title challenges, maybe that thought isn't as true as we think. Maybe we have some recency bias going on where it's like, oh my god, this is the title challenge we are facing right now. And because we're dealing with it right now, we feel like it's the hardest because we can acutely feel the difficulty, as opposed to the past where the time that's gone by has kind of dulled our memory of it. So without further ado, let's get into the team. Of course, Daytona, as one of the part of the transforming robot series, is a double transform. First form is 25 turns and second form is 6. And once you get to the final form, you basically have a really strong lead that has a 2-turn orb generation plus spike active, right? It's, kind of standard amongst all the robots. Think of Nautilus, think of Royal Oak, think of Seawolf, they all do the same thing, right? And their spikes are gemstones scaled off of certain awakening, right? Nautilus Rose, Royal Oak is L's, Seawolf is 7C, and Daytona is TPA, right? And he has a lot of TPA, he has a lot of personal damage, and because of it, he oftentimes just caps out on both main and sub attributes. That's his overwhelming strength and his advantage over the other boat. So Seawolf, he can cap out on both main and sub, but it's not like Daytona, where Daytona will always do it, and Seawolf is like, I'm with the good board, right? And good board is not consistent. And then Royal Oak only really caps out on his main attribute, and Nautilus doesn't even cap out at all. So Daytona's advantage is that he does a lot of personal damage himself, right? And then because he's based on TPA, he's actually a very simple lead to play, right? Like, you don't have to think much because he gives you so many extra combos and autoflow that, let's face it, he's really simple. You just match a TPA and extra combo, like a heart combo from the heart orb you generate, and you're just blasting for 10 billion damage off your team. And like, it's really brain dead and really simple, and that's part of the reason why he's so strong. Now, of course, he does still have his own obstacles to overcome because he's a TPA based lead. He doesn't work very well with damage void shield, which is why you use 2 H cotton, as you can see right there, 2 hollowing cotton. And those hollowing cottons are there for damage, to amp up that gemstone spike, and to provide the void coverage that Daytona needs, because VDP plus TPA, they really don't go very well together at all. It's like a terrible combination, and it's just, you just use a void, right? So you got options like H Cotton, you have Dye from Dragon Quest. You can use Dyer, although he's a little rough considering he's no skill boost whatsoever. And I guess you could try and use Mashiro's equip on a low cooldown sub. I guess that's an option. I didn't really look at her equip, but I know it's a really fast void option. Yeah, so there's cottons for you. And then after dealing with the void issue, Daytona is actually, in terms of survivability, he is less tanky than his submarine counterparts, right? All the submarines are 16x HP effectively, and Daytona is only 11.1. And this dungeon hits quite hard, so what ends up happening is you use a lot of team HP assists, right? Like Koryu Polaris, which is Fake and Rise equip. You have New Year Lajoa's Brush, her equip. You have Divine Dog Totality, right? Just tons of team HP to really bolster the health. And then you sub in H Chakeol, and H Chakeol gives you a shield with infinite uptime. You basically just make yourself 1.5 times tankier. I believe her shield is 35%. Maybe it's 30. I'd have to check. But nevertheless, it's like you basically just use a Chakeol and all of a sudden you're much tankier than before, right? A lot of leads have their own shields, right? But when you layer another one, that's when the numbers start really going out of control. So she is there to make the team tanky enough to survive a lot of things in the dungeon, including boss enrage hits and some deadly attacks as well. And then the last sub we have is Ryumei. And Ryumei, he's good skill boost, right? he provides L's, which is also nice. It's not really that necessary, but it is something. Ryumei provides a really nice active in that it unlocks. It gives you a time buff, which is admittedly not like the most amazing thing in the world, but it's nice when it's used, right? And then the last thing is it creates orbs that I can use to guarantee myself a TPA. And this is important because there's a lot of potential for orb troll. And when that happens and you don't have like an H Cotton ready or something, you can instead use Ryumei to jumpstart your team, right? You know, it's like kind of like when your battery's dead and you need to juice it, right? Well, in case you end up with 3 light orbs, and yes, this can happen, Ryumei will help you get back up. And in terms of assists, there's a 2 back-to-back Fujin spawns on floor 3 and floor 4. So I inherit a 2-turn Fujin on one of the Cottons, right? Which is, again, Shikigami, Divine Duck Totality, which is Megumi Fushiguro's assist. And then the rest of the equips, honestly, are for team HP and for getting my Daytonas up, right? So this team has enough skill boost to actually transform Daytona right away, but I use R-Ford card as a delay and Ilya's crown as a haste to get the Daytona's second form up, honestly, right away. Like, it's really nice because I don't have to worry about stalling on the first form, where the survivability is actually a lot lower, right? Because the shield is only 60% and not 70%. And then, of course, the last equip, Baron's equip, is used for team HP and SBR. Because H Cotton doesn't have any SBR of her own, and I don't think H Chakeol has any either, you're only left with 3 SBR, and, you know, Baron will give you 2 more to really just make sure you don't get skillbound and just die. So in terms of tackling the dungeon, there's some spawns that are particularly noteworthy and being tricky and things like that. First of all, in the beginning, there's a 50% chance on floor 2 to get an attribute absorb spawn, right? And the attribute absorb is RNG, a 1 of 5 color. So 50% and then 1 out of 5, which means 10% to hit light overall. If you hit the light absorb, you're dead. So you just menu quit. I know some people have been trying to like blast it with dark TPs and things like that, but for me, I just menu quit. I don't really deal with it. It is what it is. Now later on, most of the floors it's not that bad. I think the first particularly frustrating spawn will probably be something like Osiris. Basically, he gives you 1 turn where your leader swap with someone, and then he puts up a void shield based on how much you hit him, right? If you hit him below half, he puts up a 1 bill void shield. If you hit him above half, he puts up a 2 bill void shield. The thing is, if you get a 1 bill void shield, you're actually just doomed because you can't get past it. Daytona just does too much damage, right? If he puts up a 2 bill void shield, then you have to chip under the shield to kill him. Because the thing is, you don't have an H Cotton ready because H Cotton was used on the turn before. You used him on Estrella and or Tethys, right? Because those are VDP spawns. And then what happens is you need to save the other H Cotton for Indra, because Indra will create a full board of lock hard orbs, and if you don't shield yourself, you're dead. Other problem spawns. Nut is frustrating. Nephthys is annoying. If you run into Paimon, you're dead. Paimon puts up 6 turns of attribute absorb, light absorb, right? And once that's down, then you're just doomed, right? Because Paimon will start smacking you for like millions of damage, which you can survive. Otherwise, the rest of the spawns in the dungeon are quite doable. I guess in terms of bosses, L melee and G melee are both fine. Blue melee is kind of disgusting because she does a lot of damage and you can't shield it all. So H Chakeol will keep you alive for 3 turns, right? And because it takes 2 turns for her to hit, you'll last for 6 turns, right? But it's really hard to kill her off with the time you're given. What I do is I actually save Baran's shield on Ryumei, and when that fateful 8th turn comes, I use his shield and tank it. And once that's done, then B Mide, she lowers her shield yet again to something pretty low, and then you can kill her off with ease. So overall, it deals with spawns. There's definitely some auto losses, which is a little bit frustrating, like especially if you're trying to like farm it or something. But this team was more of a title challenge team. It wasn't meant for like consistency things. Now, it was kind of a breeze, right? Like I'm not gonna sugarcoat it or anything. It was a lot simpler than I thought it would be, and it's all thanks to this really busted lead. Now, I do want to talk about just tile challenges in general. I see a lot of people being really frustrated, saying this dungeon is it's too difficult. There's a lot of people saying, oh my god, my passion for the game is dying because, you know, we're stuck with these challenges that we can't even do, but, you know, with content that we were supposed to have that we don't have. And yeah, I get it. It's very frustrating. It's really, really, really hard. Like, this dungeon sucks. Like, there's nothing I can say. It just sucks, right? I think, you know, it's supposed to be like that because I make this point a lot, right? Gung Ho is a for-profit company, right? Like, it's in their best interest to figure out what is the profit maximizing strategy, right? And these title challenges are a way to give out free aesthetics. Look, it doesn't take them that much effort to make these aesthetics, right? I might be a bit presumptuous. Maybe it does take effort, you know, making that graphic, whatever. I'm sure that it takes a lot less effort than it does for us to try and clear it, right? Especially because, you know, the leaders that can clear these title challenges are locked behind expensive machines like Godfest or Collab or untradeable special pad original event, right? And so a lot of frustration around that. I honestly think, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts here, so I know I'm being a little incoherent here. Again, I go back to the profit maximization, right? If these title challenges create a desire within you to obtain the said title, and because they induce that desire, it naturally leads you to a temptation to spend, that's good for them, right? It sucks for us as a player. No getting around that. It sucks for the player. But Gung Ho is a for-profit company, and it's in their best interest to throw out these immeasurably difficult title challenge dungeons in order to induce spending. So for people who are like saying this is unfair or whatever, yeah, it is. And it was designed this way. Sucks for us. Okay, so with that out of the way, I do want to talk about comparing this title challenge to past title challenges, right? So as far as I'm concerned, there have been four title challenges. I think there's 3 titles, but there's 4 title challenges, right? And what I mean by that is, I think a lot of people who watch this channel are very familiar with the Starter title challenge, which was a reward for clearing Shura 3 on its debut. And then you have the Fairy title challenge, which was for Mysterious Dimension 1, MD1, or Dimension Guide on debut. And then you have, it's like 2 title challenges, but it's for 1 title, right? It's for Shura 2 and Alt Shura 2, right? And that was for the Devil title. And, you know, Shura 2, it's funny because it's like 2 different title challenges, but it's for 1 title. I'm going to look at it as 2 different title challenges because they actually require different teams to work with. Although it was kind of similar, but there were some differences. So yeah, let's take a look at it. So I guess for Shura 2, I think everyone is familiar with Seina. In case you aren't, Seina is one of the main characters, top rarities in the Mystics and Spectres Pad Original series. And yeah, when Shura 2 dropped, we actually got Seina. JP didn't, by the way. So we got Seina, and whoever had Seina had a breeze. I would know because I use Seina and it was a breeze. You just use Seina and you go burr, right? For everyone else, there was like, you know, Yuke's cheese build. People were trying to run Gillian. Man, I don't even remember the teams that were used. I guess if you like dig through Reddit or Facebook or something, you can see clears and say, oh, this was what was used back then. Oh yeah, you could use the other Mystics. Ryumei was pretty non-viable, I want to say. He was pretty difficult to work with. In fact, the very first video on the channel that, you know, I worked with the editor to make was actually a Ryumei clear of Shura 2, and it was actually just painful. It was pretty painful. So it was basically Mystic era. Seina mainly. I know Mikage definitely could clear, although his team was a little gimp back then. It was like you needed Horus and Alatu and other pieces. It's like Mikage basically carried the damage and everything else. Oh, you used Chris for Orb Generation. It was wild. Okay, now for Ultra 2, Mikage, you know, it's funny because Mikage is really, really strong and he's been a mainstay of all the title challenges, I think, but I don't know, he just doesn't seem rated as the top lead ever. But he might just be like the most worthwhile investment lead I've ever seen. Like if you can play him effectively. Ultra 2 was the Nautical era, right? Where if you had Nautical Sengoku from the Monogatari collab, you were chilling. Like, I used Nautical. I tried Seina. Seina was actually pretty gimped in that dungeon. It was a lot harder than Shura 2. Mainly because they actually did change some stuff and the changes were very unfavorable, right? I think that Ultra 2, we actually... I can't remember. Maybe we did get Demon Slayer and I was playing around. I honestly can't remember. What I do know is that when I tried Seina, it was a pain in the butt and I couldn't do it. So I gave up, right? And then we have the Stardra title challenge, right? Shura 3, which was exponentially more difficult than Shura 2. Like, or even Ultra 2. It was like leaps and bounds, right? The power creep is just jumping in the head. And Stardra challenge was, we had the boats. So if you had Nautilus, you're chilling. If you had Royal Oak, you had a slightly harder time, but you were still chilling. Everyone else was kind of screwed. A lot of cheese builds. The way people cleared it was pairing Freya with Nautilus and trying to make that work. Or Silica with Nautilus and trying to make that work. That was insane. And the Nautilus had so much hype back then. He was so insane. Super, super duper strong. Yeah, he's insane. So yeah, it was Nautilus back then, and then everything else was pretty painful. Well, there was Royal Oak, but you still had to roll one of the boats, which is kind of rough, you know? And then you had the MD1 title challenge, which honestly I kind of view as the most accessible title. And it sucks that the title looks so ugly, but it probably was the most accessible title on debut, right? You had Yuji Maito, you had Rosalind, you had Natsuru, Phyllis, you had boats, Nautilus, and Royal Oak. Like, that's a lot of leads. And, you know, granted, they're still all incredibly expensive, difficult to obtain, and the teams are, you know, they have to be pretty stacked and stuff, but there's a lot more options, right? Shura 2, Seina, or a bust, right? And with some Mikage and, you know, some random other clears, right? Ultra 2. Oh, now, I wasn't paying too much attention during Ultra 2, but for me at least, it was Nautical. Not a Corba, right? Shura 3 is Nautilus or Bust, right? Or Royal Oak, I guess. But for MD1, you actually had a lot of options, right? You have at least 5-6 different teams that you can work with. And that's honestly the diversity we need for title challenges, in my opinion. Like, look, I get that you want to make money, but it would help if you didn't alienate your player base so much. That if you decided to take a look at the state of the game and say, hey, maybe it would help if we didn't destroy the players with these brutal tile challenges that only 1 or 2 teams can really clear and the rest are just struggling, right? So something like MD1 feels a lot better than, again, something like Ashura 3. Now, in terms of MD2, I want to say it seems like just Daytona or bust, right? Now, I do want to say that, you know, there are other leads that can clear. Seawolf and Royal Oak both can definitely do it. It just seems like Daytona is the most brainless and easy lead, and he's a league above the others. But I do think there are more options available, even considering the difficulty. There are still more options available to people in this tile challenge run than in the other one. Sure, a 390-minute tile challenge was so brutal. Like, if you're cheesing, even the cheese was hard. Like, you needed like Mikage or something, or Ryumei, and it was rough. Like, you barely made the clear. Whereas MD2 is like you're done in 30 minutes. And of course the cheeses do take a while, but overall it was probably an easier time here. Now that's relative, and it's really hard to say. You know, I'm not the NA server player. I'm not the NA player base, but it's just I'm kind of eyeballing it. Look, as a person who owns or generally tends to own the optimal team for every title challenge dungeon, I'm just going to say MD2 is probably the most difficult because the lack of certain tools that we don't have that, you know, we probably should have really hurts. Like, for example, the 1.5 damage cap update, we don't have that, and that really hurts the optimal team. It hurts Daytona quite a bit. I think what really hurts is we're missing Crusader. Crusader equip would be absolutely insane for so many teams, right? You see how Chakeol is insane, right? Yeah, 100% uptime. With Crusader from Gung Ho Collab, you can obtain an equip that if you equip on a 1 CD sub, you can basically get an Chakeol except on any sub, right? With a 1 turn cooldown. Or like Royal Oak, you can run like Hitagi, will do really good damage and, you know, fully protect you. So not having Crusader is a huge bummer, right? Oh, we don't have the JP exclusives argument, which I don't really enjoy. It's like kind of like beating a dead horse, right? Yeah, I get it. We don't have JP exclusive. It sucks. Like, honestly, for Daytona, it was the first time I felt the difference so acutely. Like, I'm talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Star Wars collab. Man, he's good. He's really good. And the fact that we don't have him really does hurt. But, you know, we were never going to get him. It was very unlikely. And it's just better to learn to live what we have, right? It's like, okay, we're not getting it. What can we use instead? We can use Narcissus. What a joke. We can use Ryumei. Other things like that. I can definitely tell the difference is there, right? Like, people are using Toya, but Toya's HP is very low and you can't inherit over and things like that. So I guess that's my little bit of JP mold right there. Honestly, in terms of optimal builds, I think MD2 has it the worst, because keep in mind, I think the main comparison here in terms of difficulty is Shura 3 versus MD2, right? But Shura 3 with Nautilus was actually pretty free. Like, it was a lot simpler than I think people realize. MD2 with Daytona, it's pretty rough. So, I don't know, that's just my opinions on title challenges in general. It's kind of a nice walk down memory lane. You know, let me know what you guys think about title challenges in the comments below, because I'm kind of curious, like, what do people even think about these things, right? Like, I know there's a lot of molding going on, but you know, if you objectively look at the history of title challenges, what do you guys think? So I'm kind of curious to see, and yeah, if you guys let me know, then we can, you know, I can gather people's thoughts on it. With that, that'll be all from me. Honestly, like, I don't really have too many insights on the team. It was just, unless I go deeper and make a full breakdown or whatever, but I don't know. I'd rather make my own build and break that down than, you know, take a JP build and break it down. It's not mine, so it's like, I don't feel too good about it, so. Yeah, if you have any questions, you can always come over on Discord and ask me or something like that. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. You know, MD2 sucks, but Daytona is pretty OP. I will see you guys in the next video, and hopefully I see you guys in the comments as well. Good luck and have fun.